Am I live yet? OBS updated to a new version, which is what I use for my streaming. So I'm going to make sure that I'm live and that there's some audio, and then we can start talking. Hey, look at that. All right, I don't want to create a feedback loop. Anyways, back to the program here. Welcome to Vlog Thursday, and I'm live. Move up in my chair and get a little comfortable here. So here's the fun story, and I'll wait because it takes a few minutes for this notice to go out and everyone to get here, so I'll babble about a couple errata first. And I think that's probably the first thing I should do is start with errata each time. That gives people a little time to catch up and join the stream. Actually, making sure my heater's turned off. It's actually warm in my closet. For those of you who don't know, don't lick it, Tom. For those of you who don't know, I work not in a office, but in a closet. This is by choice, by design. So if you watch the office tour, I have by far the smallest office of anyone. That's on purpose. I've never cared about the large office thing. Now, good news, as I said last week, I was working on creating more time to do more things. And then things happened outside of work that required my attention that I don't like. So I figured I'll share with you that are here early at the amusement. There's a happy Tom fixing his furnace. There's my friend Atar, who is also a client and helped me get the parts I needed for my furnace to be fixed. And this is at 5:30 in the morning, me sucking the vacuum thing to make my furnace start. And that's me testing it because, you know, I take selfies of everything because I'm an idiot. And then me checking the furnace. So if you don't know, I have a background in electronics repair, so to me, everything is just a series of sensors. Therefore, I went ahead and did the, someone noticed a toilet in there. Yes, someone else had posted this. Not my photo, but I thought this was great. I don't know any details about this. I just know that this is a thing someone sent me that I thought was wonderful. I have no context for it other than I like the detail, the fact that, yes, there is even toilet paper on this. It doesn't really zoom in because it's as close as it'll get. So I almost made this the photo because I love this photo. I know nothing about it, so I wish I had some context. It looks old. If someone has context for this, please share. Yes, it's important to flush your server out every now and again, and this is where the log files go. So that's where you do your log dumps. So what I'm babbling on about is between my furnace breaking at 5 in the morning, and that's been busy today. I had plans to rock out several videos today, but instead my furnace broke, and I went and fixed that. And this is what it looks like under my house because my plumbing broke, and that's what under a house looks like where you have broken plumbing. So those are things that now sucked up part of my day, and my friends over at Any Moment Plumbing helped me with those problems to get that sorted out. We did get new shirts, so there's that. So, yeah, there's new shirts and things like that, too. So there's enough of my personal life. Oh, and I was playing Smash Brothers with my son. I beat him, and so, yeah. So that occupied, I did not get as many videos out this week as I wanted. So now we can go on to the real topics that I wanted to talk about. And I'm going to start with security, and more security. And this has popped up. I spent some time on Reddit. And other IT people, so I hate the juxtaposition or when people say things that are sayings that I know just aren't true. Oh, the mechanic's car is always broken. The IT guy's systems are never updated. No, I update my systems as if it was a religion and a ritual. All of my systems are up to date. All of my systems are on the latest. We have everything constantly pushed to the latest. We also, no compromises are made. Everything is two-factor authentication all day, every day, no exceptions. Second, I make sure that security hygiene processes are followed. I make sure security in general is followed. This is not something that there's exception or room for or any lacks of. The minute you set your guard down, that's when you get compromised. Because the trouble with being secure and why it's so difficult is you have to be right 24/7. All the time, you always have to be correct. You always have to be on top of it. What happens when you're not? Well, if you're someone trying to poke at someone's security, you will you only have to be right once. You only have to be right one time that one person didn't do that one setting or used a weak password. That's when the people get in. So if someone's attacking your system, they only got to be right once. With security, you got to be right all the time. The challenge is on the security side. So when I seen this post on Reddit, let me zoom in a little bit so we can read through a little bit of it. And the person got tagged for having a misleading title, and it is. So do not read this title and assume there's something wrong with Screen Connect, because there's not. Screen Connect Cloud compromised warning. No. But first off, person got the wrong title. Today we discovered and confirmed Screen Connect Cloud admin was compromised. No, we didn't have 2FA enabled beforehand, so that was our fault. No, not that was our fault. That is completely the most likely reason all of this happened. So this, I can leave a link to this if anyone's interested. Matter of fact, I'll just throw it in here if you want to read it. It's in the live stream now. You can find this on Reddit r/MSP. Type in Screen Connect and you'll run across it if this is in the future when you're watching this. But here's one of the things about this. Like I said, I don't like the fact that some people claim that. If you're a mechanic, you better have a good running car, because my mechanic does. He's got a shop you could eat off the floor of. That's why I take my car to that mechanic. People, I welcome them to come look at how we do things. I talk about them on the YouTube channel here. I have no problems with our clients stopping by anytime. Things you won't find, a disaster. We're very clean. We're very organized. Everything's put away. Everything has labels on it. Everything is locked. Everything is secure. There's not exceptions made for this. And I don't get it. I've been in other IT places, and it's a total disaster. And they just run their company that way. They run things way out of date. And I very much so have been helping. I know, and it's not me. I am not making fun of these people. I'm telling them, get your crap together. It's not me poking at you going, ha ha, I'm better. I'm telling you, I'm willing to help. I'm willing to offer this as a service for some people. If you need help updating your systems, contact someone. If there's something I don't know how to take an update, I contract someone to do that. I'm not like the top of it all. I just make sure I know who to call, and I make sure all of my systems are up to date. And if they're not, I reach out to the people that I need to reach out to update systems, or if I have problems or need help securing them. Matter of fact, even though I feel confident myself in securing them, I still like to be second guessed by people. So I have and have contracted people I know to audit my systems. This is all just constantly going on. This is all regular stuff that I do to make sure everything's up to date. Now, every time I see an account or one of these companies like, oh, look, my 2FA was not enabled. Why not? What stopped you? Is it just lazy? So it's just one of those things. Like, I don't understand that. And it's a lot of IT companies, and it's slowly coming to light. I had done I think I talked about this. Maybe it was the last vlog Thursday or one before. But there was an MSP themselves. And it started in Reddit, but there's news articles. But unfortunately, news articles aren't going to enlighten you any more than Reddit does, because they were basing their knowledge on the postings on somebody here. And right here. Here's the other one. This is another, as the title says, a local mid-sized MSP with about 80 clients, unknown number of endpoints. So we don't know how many computers it was. We know it was 80 different clients, so perhaps 80 businesses got hacked, and all of those 80 businesses and endpoints, including servers, got crypto-lockered. And this is, once again, a compromise. Now, this is where it gets, I'm a little confused, and unfortunately, no one's giving us the details. But according to folks at Huntress Labs, I follow them a lot. We're going to be doing some videos about Huntress Labs and their products. But right here, Huntress Labs talks about how some of this occurred, their knowledge of it. There's their knowledge on the CVE that they claim was used. And because there's not, here's the challenge, you're never really going to have any verification of this. But what this is the breakdown of how this likely occurred, because we know there's a compromise in this particular plugin for ConnectWise Manage and how it attacks to the Kaseya. So this is a plausible. Huntress Labs said we have actively seen this in the wild. We don't know if this is exactly how this company got done. Because there's not any way to tell, and the company is anonymous and should be. I'm not interested in the company name. I'm interested in the methodology. But then sometimes the methodology gets kind of boring. They're like, oh, they had a plugin that was disclosed in 2017, 2 years ago, when they never fixed it. The company, the IT person, kept using something from 2017. Now, like I said, I realize it's hard to keep up with all the security updates. It's a challenge, but it's part of your job if you plan to be in this industry. If you want to play in the IT space, these are things you need to be aware of. These are things you need to be on top of. You need to be secure. You need to be minded. We have a tough industry because doing all this is difficult. But this is if this is the role you want to choose, absolutely. It's exciting. I like the challenge in it myself. And yeah, that's, this is just part of the business, is getting in here. But anyways, that's kind of my rant on a little bit of security, though. It's sometimes uninspiring when you find out how these companies got hacked. But yeah. Now, someone asked what 2FA I use. Pretty much everything we use is TOTP authentication, and you're in luck. For those of you that are interested, I know this YouTube guy. Go over to his channel, TOTP. I have an entire explainer video on how TOTP functions, how it works, how you can use it on your phone, and it's how it's an open algorithm and how this system works. So I did this video a while back, but so if you ever get wondered, so yeah. Ben C says, sounds like a rogue employee went rogue. That's obviously a different type of worry. A lot of it's not employees going rogue. A lot of it has more to do with the crypto people have some money to be made. Of course, you could have some staff member doing it. That's a risk you can never really mitigate. Treat people right, but then again, even when you treat people right, doesn't mean they won't screw you. I know it's happened to me. That's life. They try. You just got to be vigilant in keeping everything documented. And whenever someone exits your company, change all the passwords everywhere. And people are like, "But that's a big job." Yeah, it sucks. It's a big job. You got to do it. I don't know. There's no easy way to do it. What about UB or hardware tokens? Those are nice. If you go the route of YubiKey, solid. Definitely a way to go. I do like YubiKeys. I also use SSH keys. So I use SSH keyed authentication for management of a lot of devices. This was the video I started but didn't really get to finish, was how to use 2FA or 2FA as a key. And what SSH keys do is let you generate a key that has a public side and a private side. So you can give anyone you want. And I've said this before. Is it .keys? Here's my keys. Go ahead. Have at it. You can have my public key. And what this allows me to do is, without you ever giving me a password, you want me to be able to log into a server. This is how you do it. You can just go here and put my SSH key into a server, and now, without us ever exchanging a password, then you can easily let me into your server so I can work on it, so I can manage it, so we can take care of things for it without exposing it, without transporting it. But don't worry. There's other ways you can do security for things like this. You can do things like Keybase. If you haven't heard of Keybase, I'm working on a video on it because Keybase is a lot. There's a lot that goes on in Keybase. But Keybase is a really great system for also having cryptographic conversations, and a good place. It's kind of a combination of identity management combined with being able to manage some of your keys. Now, it has a cool chat client, all encrypted. They verify who I am. So if you go to keybase.io/LawrenceSystems, you know that the messages you're talking to are me, because I verified my Twitter, I verified my GitHub, I verified my Reddit, I verified my Thomas Lawrence Facebook and my website. And you can keep adding more things on there. Also, if you want to get a message to me and encrypt it, I have my public key available on here. So you can actually just send me a key. You can use my key, my public key, to encrypt. And now, if you're not familiar with PGP encryption, you use public key for encryptions, and then private key is the only part that can unencrypt it. So it's just a really slick system for being able to do this, but it's ways you can also get messages to people that are fully encrypted and put them in email. So I'm going to be doing some more videos and explaining on this. That way, kind of gives you an idea of some of the different methodologies, but we use these internally as well, to even how we share information amongst my staff. And for example, passwords. We don't have access to passwords when you're outside the building, some of the documentation, but there's a lot of there's a lot of things we can do to still get passwords to people out in the field. We use, disappearing messages over encrypted channels such as Signal with my staff. and we make them all disappear. That's just good security hygiene. Anything they need, they only need for the moment of that job. So you set the messages to expire after an hour. So any details, IP addresses, and maybe a password or some config information that was real specific, it expires and goes away. There's just all kinds of little things that I'm going to be putting together, a whole process of different things we do. But that good security hygiene just really is so important. And once you get used to living it, your life gets easier because you don't worry. You should always worry, but you're not worried, oh man, I hope no one grabs my phone because I have all kinds of unencrypted information on it. You should never have a bunch of unencrypted information on your phone. How do you find good staff? Who can you trust? I love the idea of running my own MSP, but would want to scale. Good staff are rare as unicorn poop. They are rare as unicorn poop. Treat them well. They're hard to find. No easy answers. Even when you think you found good staff, you may not have, because then they leave or they have problems or anything like that. So it all can be quite the issue. So that's just some of my thoughts on security. Now, thoughts on, let's say, well, I'll actually answer a couple questions here. Ooh, I'm actually going to do something else real quick. You guys are going to laugh at this. This is breaking news. So we'll get some hits on here. Yes, I love this. One of my friends has just purchased this website. So I'm going to, all right, just shared it. YouTube Live. All right, cool. Enough of that. Sorry for the distraction. This happens all the time. Anyways, back. Do we use MSAD? No, we don't. So we do not use, we don't have any Microsoft servers in here, so we're not using Microsoft Active Directory. For us personally, we don't have central user management, but it's not something I see as a major problem for us. It's a just not something I think about as much for there. It's really good for especially these larger companies and things like that. But for us, I only have 8 people to keep track of, so it's not that hard to do, and we don't have that many different. We have a handful of different systems, but that's also how the delegated access works. I mean, I guess if I tied them all together under some central management system, it may be easier, but I don't know. There's a list. When I hire someone, what do they need access to, and I create them an account on each one. And obviously, they use a common username across there. I don't force them common passwords. That's a whole different topic. Ever set up reverse proxy with 2FA for a client? I guess I need more information than what you're trying to ask. Have I used free IPA? Why does it make me think of beer? No, I don't use free IPA. Never tried it. I've heard of it, and I know what it is now. I remember looking at it before. Didn't really have. What is it always I say? I don't have a use case for that. So. Also, here, if you want to sign the key for this, this is my friend's PGP key. Oh, yes. Anyways, close all these things, go back over here, keep babbling about security. So, yeah, I'm not sure about the reverse proxy thing. I've been helpful in setting up XCP-ng. Thank you. I have more videos to do on it. It just comes down to time. We, of course, still use XCP-ng. That's still how we use all of our stuff here. So this is all of our systems. Ooh, is there updates? Can we update live? Ooh, upgrade required. See, I wasn't an hour ago. I was just in here. It wasn't. So now I'm upgrading again because there's a new version. So you guys are watching me in real time do my obsessive. If I see the upgrade button, I'm clicking it. I don't care that it's a 5 o'clock on a Thursday and we're still open and working. We're upgrading this part. Also, we have redundant systems and things like that. I've talked about that, how we have things in here. Am I logged into this one? My backup one. All right. So here's the backup one for all of that. So while this one's updating, this one can be running and still using it. So we have the Zabbix, we have the 2 versions of XO running, the Wiki, the Unify controller, Screen Connect. So once again, I just updated the Unify again. So there's a snapshot of it, which actually I can delete now because I don't need it. But it's all about keeping everything up to date. Like I said, that's the huge part. Now let's see. Took down an entire government office for like 5 minutes, updating mail a day. You gotta be careful where you do. Have I used Palo Alto or Checkpoint for firewalls? What's been your experience? Good, bad? Would you ever use them again? I've not used Palo Alto. Hey, it's Phil. Hi, Phil. I have not used Palo Alto. I've had a few friends, and we've had a couple clients at Checkpoint. These were a lot of takeovers that were already deployed. They worked. I didn't have any problems with them. They seem fine. They don't seem to be a bad device. I don't have any particular hatred for them. They're not SonicWall. If there's ones I just don't like, it's SonicWall because I find their interface just confusing, and I just don't like their product because of that. We've just found them to be a little bit more of a pain versus, obviously everyone knows my go-to is pfSense. And this kind of comes down to product choices, which is another thing. Someone asked me this on Saturday when I was doing a live stream on how do you choose a product? Well, one of my first rules is the product open source? That's something I really want to know. Then I want to know product history. I'm going to look up CVEs on that particular product. If you start digging around, and you figure out what those CVEs are for said product, that's a big deal because what you want is not just has there been a CVE? What was that CVE for? Was it because of poor coding practices, or was it because something they had, it was built on something else that caused that? So this is one of those things. The whole CVEs are only based on someone testing and finding it. So it's not like this is like the only factor. So when you talk about security of a product or when I'm trying to review something, CVEs are part of it, but I want to know if it was because they left something wide open from a default configuration versus it was built on a stack of something else that got compromised that they built it on. The other side of that, just because there's not been a security compromise does not mean the product is secure. Some of the new products entering the marketplace are really hard to evaluate. And I'll throw one out there, for example, Bitwarden. So if you use Bitwarden, people kept asking about it when it came out a while ago. And I'm like, hey, sounds neat. And people are like, oh, it's secure. Yeah, until someone else, a third-party code auditor, goes through it. Not until they've really been gone through and tested in the market can you really trust security on them. So while I think this is, I still haven't gotten around to testing it myself for any type of product evaluation, but as far as how they go, and they've gone through some code audits, they've gone through some scrutiny, and the fact that it's open source means it's a very interesting product that I'm really interested in looking at because so this is a product choice I really like. People ask me about random firewalls. Well, when you look at something, and I'm bringing up OpenSense, people are like, but it's a fork of pfSense, so it should be secure. No, they changed a lot of things. So what advantage does it have over pfSense? There's your first question. If there's not one, why would I use it? So there's like one of those first questions. Why would I use someone who forked a product? Why wouldn't I just use the base product? Unless the base product's been abandoned. Sometimes forks happen because of abandonment, and that's different. So you have different versions of software where they abandoned it and they had to fork it. That's different. pfSense is technically a fork of Monowall, but Monowall closed, so the pfSense is the fork of it that's now the mainstream distribution. So these are a few of those things that really go into product choices. And do they offer features against the products I currently use? Because learning new product can be very hard. I really like Unify. I know there's other people out there that do similar things, but are they as well vetted? Do they have a business model around it? This is something that's huge, especially in open source. Like if you want longevity of a project, if you want longevity of a product line at all, and this comes back to, we're going to look at cloud. I think it was called CloudTrax by OpenMesh. So OpenMesh. People bug me a while about OpenMesh. Lots of people, oh, you should try OpenMesh. You should try OpenMesh. And I said, how does a company make money selling a product and giving away the cloud? That doesn't make any sense. If they give away the cloud for free forever, someone has to pay for the cloud forever. The cloud isn't free. It's somebody else's computer. Well, they got bought by Datto, which now means they have a charge for the cloud, and it's not the same. And I've heard a lot of people complain about it. Hence why I never bothered testing them, and I'm happy I didn't. The company got bought, and now everything on them is way different than it was, which is still why I like Unify. Let me answer a few questions over here. Hey, thank you for Rod for throwing out there for some love on the channel. What's the best way to move data from one data set to another on FreeNAS? You can do it from the command line. You could use the copy tool because you can, when you do the, I did a video on how to use ZFS syncing between them. You can point it towards itself and ZFS synced from one data set to another. That's another way you could do it. I've been working on documentation with MediaWiki, made me focus on new system Bookstack because I hate the plugins. Okay. I've heard Bookstack. I've not used it. I've heard good things about it. I help you set up a segregated network LAN for external company who will be using LAN pfSense. Hey, awesome. Happy you're setting up that. I have some more network security videos coming to really get into some finite detail on that because a few things I realized I brushed over, so I want to make a network design video. So just talk about some best practice on network design. I wanted to use a reverse proxy for some services, Plex domain, video domain, but wanted to secure them all with single 2FA. Yeah, secure them over VPN probably makes sense. Lars likes the Edge Router 4. I think they're nice. The Edge Routers, they're basic, but they're solid. And they don't seem to have, the Edge line is solid and secure. I don't really have any complaints about them. Have I tried Steve Gibson Squirrel? No, one day I will. I think it's really good. I love what Steve Gibson's doing with it. I love everything about the product. I've never used it. So yeah. I was never pitched that Bitwarden has been. Yes, Bitwarden has been audited. That's why I was saying they went through some code review. So it's absolutely, Bitwarden now has been. That's what I was kind of getting to. So maybe you didn't hear me say that. Attempted to get Zen Web Orchestra UI set up. What do you use to compile it? I have a video on that. Go watch it. ConnectWise, yes, ConnectWise was acquired. That is correct. They were bought by Thomas Bravo. That's a different topic. So, whoops, Thomas Bravo. Companies. If you go through to, if you don't know who Thomas Bravo, they're a venture capital company, and they have a big list of companies. That companies include all these guys, many of them in the tech business. That does include both SonicWall, Tripwire, Veracode, Sirius, SolarWinds, and now ConnectWise. So they own the biggest people in the MSP space. So, yeah. Where are the other Synology videos coming? Real soon. Yeah. Definitely there. Skip Olivia. It's like an old SNL, a bit about the bank that does nothing but make change. How do we make money? Volume. Yes. There we go. Do they fully own all of those? No. So my understanding of how the company works is they're just an investment company that lends tech companies. They focus in the tech sector, seems to be their thing. So you go and they invest companies that need money to a return on investment. And here's the challenge in the tech industry. You generally find more venture capital in the tech industry than you do standard banking capital because tech moves fast. It can be lucrative, but lucrative also comes at the higher risk. So this is an example of ConnectWise. You know, internally they're privately held, so I don't know the details, but ConnectWise goes, hey, we could do more if we had some funds to make this product better. But that means we need to hire people, and then you have to then justify, oh, I'm going to hire a bunch of people that all make $150,000 or $200,000 a year because they're really good programmers. And now you're like, oh, okay. And the bank goes, why are you going to pay all those? Can't you just find someone cheaper? Because the bank, once you get involved in loans, whoever's loaning you the money has a vested interest in your company. So they ask a lot of questions. Venture capital people who lend money based in tech, they understand the cost of acquisition of other companies. They understand why you would do things. And I'll use something really big, but at least it's well documented so you can see as an example. Look at how Facebook works. Facebook acquired WhatsApp. And so if we look at this, Facebook buys WhatsApp. Now, this is interesting because you're sitting here going, WhatsApp, they employ less than 100 people. So here's your pitch you have to make to the bank. This is how I want you to think about this from a technology standpoint and from a lending standpoint. Facebook bought WhatsApp for $19 billion. Tell anyone in a tech, tell a banker, say, I need $19 billion to buy a company that has less than 100 employees. They're going to just escort you out the door and tell you to go sit down somewhere else. So you think about this from that type of perspective. Banks may not understand necessarily the dynamics of the tech industry and why that was a good move. There's, I'm not going to get every detail about it, but there's plenty of debrief discussion because that was a few years ago. But this is why companies like Thomas Bravo exist, to help tech companies and understand their needs to do it. But as I understood from discussions I've been with other people, Thomas Bravo generally is just a company that invests but doesn't try to cross out companies. So if you think of a merger and acquisition, they buy two companies in a similar industry, they'll find redundancies between those companies and merge them together. Thomas Bravo, my understanding is, does not do that. And that's based on history of them. So I don't know for sure what's going to happen with them in ConnectWise, whether or not they'll try to do anything, because reality is, SolarWinds has a market and people who like it, such as myself, and ConnectWise has a market and other people who like their product line. So trying to cross out those product lines and merge two very different platforms that do have some redundancies between them, but in the big picture are very different competitors, may not make the most money. It may make the most money to invest in them, help them expand their market or expand a product offering, and then reap the investment for it. So that's kind of my thoughts on how, Then someone pointed out, Charles S. Thomas Bravo list of companies is a list of companies they owned and previously owned. That's exactly correct. Because one of the things that you may have noticed in this, when you go to their list of companies, they're very clear on this current status. Current investments or prior investments. So they had previously owned several of these other companies and then sold them back either to someone else or the companies became independent again. So yeah, this is one of those things that this is what happens when you're dealing with the bigger money. I'm small potatoes. I'm a tiny company compared to any of these guys. So I don't have loans or anything like that. So I'm familiar with the market. I've worked in larger scale markets when I worked in a corporate world, but I don't anymore. So I'm still familiar with, and I have friends that work in these industries. I personally do not. I like being a smaller independent company, so I don't have to answer to anyone but my wife, who's asking me things on this message. If anyone looked for her, because eventually I do have to get off this, and me and her are supposed to go somewhere. I seen her in here. So yes, we're going, honey. Yes, we are going. See if my wife answers that. I don't know if she's paying attention to me. Probably not. So there is that. Now I'm going to throw something else out here. When? Home by 6. Home by 6 is what I'm telling my wife. You guys hold me to it. That means I have about 15 more minutes to goof off here. Yes, that's my wife in the chat, if you couldn't tell by her last name. Anyways, yes, Docker is awesome. I'm also putting together some videos on IOCage. That's awesome as well. And because Phil was in here, we're going to go ahead and bring up Phil's GitHub. We're going to talk about something on here. And this came out of us helping people. So hold on. Actually, GitHub / There we go. So Phil and also Jay. Here we go. Here is a Ansible Screen Connect. And this is where, once you get to what we're going to call Phil's level. If you don't know who Phil is, he's co-host of the Sunday Morning Linux Review and a huge open source tech friend as well. Oh, EST here in Detroit, so in case you're wondering. But this is some of the stuff that, coming back to Docker, yes, I'm interested in Docker. Phil knows some Docker, but it's one of those things too. Ansible is another thing you should probably learn. If you're getting into Docker, also learn some Ansible, because you want to learn configuration management. And the important part and why you should learn any of this, and this is something I'm always working to get better at, is not just maintaining servers, but also having servers that build themselves. And that's what this is here. And once again, you come back to the open source model. Hey, awesome. This is one of those things that Phil put together. Now, this is an open source Ansible script that can help set up reverse proxies and things like that, specifically for Screen Connect. But we all do a lot of this in open source. Oh, Kubernetes just don't. That's a different one. So this is some of the ways you can learn with open source is so you can start digging in and reverse engineering these things and kind of get better at them. So UX format hot sauce. Thank you for throwing money at the hot sauce fund. Yes, we're going to do some hot sauce videos soon. We have a collection, a big collection. We made the big firewall of hot sauce, as we put it. So, so we need more to put on there. So, but me and Phil might do. I did a video, and like I said, I'm getting a little off topic from the original question of, do I like Docker? I do. But the other thing that you should look at too is some of the other configuration management. We also have some Ansible videos on my channel. Phil helped me do them. I'm an amateur at Ansible. I know how to type the commands. Phil knows how to build all the commands, but I'm getting better. I've been learning it. I was reading through in reverse engineering how Phil did all this, and it's pretty outstanding. So these are all some pieces out there to help you learn a lot of this. And sometimes we challenge because it's one of those, where do we start with all of this? But the other side of it is once you get this going, it's not as hard once you really get into it. And we did this for a couple of reasons. One, we don't mind helping people, and we posted this under on Reddit. And I got a few more places I got to post and tweet this. But what this is to help automatically set up Let's Encrypt certificates for people using Screen Connect. And as we noticed, this is the first person. This person is not even using 2FA, but we've also seen people not using SSL certs when this is other IT companies using tools like Screen Connect, not using SSL certs. And we really want people using this. I don't want to see, just because I compete with people, so to speak, I don't want to see people compromised. Yeah, Docker. One of the things I'm going to cover with Docker, though, that you have to be aware of when you look at this, if you're just pulling Docker images, Docker security. This was just in the news. And this is not a fault. This is not Docker. Well, there was a hole in Docker. That's a whole different. But there's a whole bunch. And maybe it was under Reddit self-hosted. It's a good talk right here, but there was a, right here. There we go. So someone went through, and this is one of the things when you start pulling other people's Docker images. So Docker is a really simple container system, or a great container system, I should say. But if you are pulling other people's Docker Cloud images, you have to be careful where you're pulling them from. Because if they're not maintaining them, you are now just passing along the vulnerabilities based on how these Dockers are getting built. And this is a good article on that particular topic. So, and granted, a lot of it, matter of fact, that's why they zoomed in right here. Most of it is all on Node. So these vulnerabilities are a lot of it based to the Node packages and things like that. So this is obviously a real big issue. So yeah, this is one of those things. Like, you got to be careful. Just because it's Docker and you're outsourcing some of that management part by just pulling the latest Docker image, make sure those Docker images are also being updated. That's why it's good to understand a lot of the code behind the server and how it works. It's a lot of learning, but I think it's important. We use Docker. That's actually how we update our forums, is we're pulling a Docker image from Discourse. So Discourse maintains their forums as a Docker image, so I don't have to update all the modules individually. So I'm able to pull those Docker images from them and rebuild them to the latest version. Get one of Nando's hot sauces. We'll have to check that out. What else we got here? I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Being able to knock up servers super quick. Definitely when I'm looking at Docker, we'll check out Ansible. Yes. Like I said, it's one of those things, like being able to, and this is something I've been learning from Phil, is you want to be able to deploy a script that deploys to server. That way, the data is obviously critical. You keep the data on one partition, and you can do this with Docker, how you keep the data somewhere outside of the Docker, so the data and the OS level have a separation layer between them, so to speak, so I can update the OS easier. So that this is one of the important things that you're making sure you want to be able to have the data separate, but you also don't want to ever have the system to be problematic to update, and you should be able to have the system almost like rebuild itself off of a series of scripts. So you want the server to have these packages, these settings on there. And this also helps. Jay's from LearnLinux.tv. He may do, I think he may have some videos on it. Me and him may do some videos together on this particular topic, which is how we rebuild servers real quick, or rebuild even desktops. One of the things you want to be able to do is whenever I reload a computer, I've got a list of packages and things like that and stuff. So when my data is being backed up all the time on the computer, but I can just reload the packages, no problem. Matter of fact, that's one of the things I've always loved about Linux compared to other distros or other things like Windows. Windows is slowly trying to get to the point that Linux has been at for a while, where I have a common stack of tools I want on my server. That's just a script. And every time you add one, and this is an example, oh, I like this thing on my computer. Well, then while you add it to your computer, you actually add it to the script that sets up your computer. If you're doing this all the time, if my computer dies, I'm not sad. Well, maybe for a minute. And then I can just rebuild it by pulling all those packages back and then take the configuration files, like, personalized settings, drop them back in, and away you go. Now, this allows you, when you're doing this on a desktop, and I don't distro hop mostly out of laziness, but if you're someone who wants to try lots of Linux distros, there's ways you can do that. You could just grab the packages again. Now, it becomes more complicated with distro hopping if your packages are not available and you're moving to a different base. All my distros have been Debian at heart. So because they're Debian based or essentially Ubuntu based, I can just an apt-get install script all my packages, no problem. If I were to move to something that was Red Hat, CentOS, then I would have to modify those scripts if I were to switch that. So there's things to consider, but they're important aspects you should learn when you're building these servers, and it makes a big difference on there. There's not really any good that I'm aware of or have seen a solid solution for a open source equivalent of Active Directory. There's just not that central management like there is inside of Windows. I got to admit, this is actually one of the reasons things like FreeNAS and all those other ones are so big on using and integrating within Active Directory. Someone brought up at the beginning FreeIPA, and it's also, I know it is some managed Linux users, clients, and hosts in your realm from one central control system. I haven't used this, but it does have some of those features. But I haven't really gotten into it. I haven't really dug into it enough to tell you how good this works. It's not something I've really used. Yeah, Steve, free IPA, but it's a beast. Phil knows way better than me on this. He's probably at least had some involvement in it through some of the work he does. Phil does a lot of contract open source work. So he's been in a lot of systems. He's built a lot of systems. So he comes from a lot of experience in that world. These are also, by the way, on my forums, and I'll pull it up real quick here. So when you go to our forums, we have a section for SMLR, and I have a section for site feedback and video suggestions. If you guys ever want some of these as a video or even as a podcast topic, we're more than happy at the Sunday Morning Linux Review to dig into some of these topics, so we can kind of do a deeper dive into them and kind of help out, like, putting this together. Because ultimately what a lot of this is with a lot of my videos and combined with the forums and documentation, we want to create like a very big, I'm a big open source person, so I like giving away all this knowledge for free with all of this. So hopefully that's helpful on that. So I guess my wife is leaving without me. Catch me later. That's fine. NIST has been around longer than AD, so okay. I'm not familiar with NIST. Okay, well, NIST didn't find it. I guess I'd need a link. But this is about where I'm going to wrap this up, because my wife apparently is leaving. Well, I know where she's going, so she's not going far. She's not leaving me. She's just leaving the house. But I'm going to wrap this up because I could obviously go on forever. A couple things. Do you think PF Smart, AMD Ryzen, or EPYC CPUs? I don't know why you couldn't use AMD Ryzen or EPYC with pfSense. I don't know. So I have no idea. Network Information Service. Oh, that. Okay, yeah. I've never tried to use it for managing centralized user management, so I know I get it now, but yeah, never use it as a service. So Unix Yellow Pages type of user management. Okay, we can go with that. I still like Phil's page here he made. This makes me happy. I just want to. It's got PGP on it, but they need to be interactive, Phil. You broke it. I'll fix it. What? What'd I break? Hold on. Got something. All right. Enough screwing around with that. Yeah, old Unix Yellow Pages type thing. Okay, Kerbos is available in this now for AD integration. Interesting. Oh, Bill's admitting a copy. He admitted it. He copied it straight from Stack Overflow. I get it. I may have done that once or twice, you know. I really do put a lot of effort to make sure I understand. Never just copy paste anything from Stack Overflow, unless it's, you know, a fun page like this. And I like that it's a pretty good fill. I just caught the title on that. That makes me laugh too. But yeah, make sure you start with copying it from Stack Overflow, then learn later, spend some time, dig in how to work all this. I just commented in our forums, someone asked about using a web interface on top of Linux, and I said right away, I said, you know, Webmin is great. I actually years and years and years ago learned some of the Webmin stuff. I thought it was pretty cool, but then I took the time to learn how Webmin was working, how it was handling things like Apache setups, and I'm like, oh, I get this. Oh, I understand this. And now I don't use it anymore. It's novel. I think it's cool. I think it's a product that for people who want to get started, or if you're a casual admin and want to have something, you know, in your stack, in your home lab, and it's an easy way for you to spin things up. It's awesome. But yeah, so that's it's one of those things. Take the time to learn. Take the time to learn the back end. It's worth it. It's effort, but especially security. Learn the security side of things, like I said at the beginning. So I'm going to wrap this up. I have a Chamber of Commerce event to go to, and I've talked about this before. People ask, where do you get clients from? Where do you get clients from? Chamber of Commerce events is one of those things, so that's why I have to go do that next. You know, sometimes I got to go physically be in person to get more clients. It's not all about, I love all the people I get from YouTube, but we still do some of the physical layer stuff locally. So that's what I'm going to go do now is the local network, like network with other humans. So yeah, there you go. I use Webmin a lot, but stop using when I learn all the commands. Smarter. Awesome. I'm glad. Take the time and learn. I never fault anyone for using some weird tools or some of those tools. Anything that keeps you in the learning path is definitely where we need to go. You can make Samba on a Raspberry Pi. Yes, there is the ability for Samba to be like an AD controller. I've never used it, but I know it's there. There's been progress made in that direction. Yeah, maybe one day I'll dig into it, but for me, I don't really have a use case for it. You know, I like to say that. All right, awesome. More videos coming. If you didn't see, I just posted, but then broke it, then posted it properly. I truncated a piece of it on accident of my XG7100 review. For those of you who've been asking me about that, yes, we do deploy them. We had one that did come by the office. Also, wow, the screen looks cool because it's kind of like screenception. I see it going all the way down here. And with that, thanks. Take care.